What's good, everybody? This is GOAT James Kingdom. We're here live. We're one short. Johnny's not going to be on today. He got something with his wife. So we're just going to kick it off with Bill Manning and Travis right now. All right. So I guess the topic was today was just going to discuss the upcoming season and everything. And I was going to have someone come on for challenging us on exposing how Jordan is the GOAT, but they didn't want to come on today. It's cool. They said they had something with their family. But anybody in the comments or on Facebook, if y'all want to come and challenge one of us, it doesn't matter. I know Dexter's coming on, so I don't know what's going on with him, but everything's good. All right, so Chad, what's your predictions on the upcoming season?
I don't have Denver repeat, man. Like they, I'm gonna be a Jordan fan here for a second. They had a cakewalk through these playoffs, but
You
I
said who?
mean the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, Denver Nuggets. Yeah.
But I see in the East, I see Miami doing good with or without Lillard. If they got Lillard, I think that they pretty much will have it locked there. Uh, West, it's probably gonna be the Suns if they don't get injured.
I've always been saying Kevin Durant's team because he usually have the team with the most offensive firepower for what the last 4 seasons, and they
Yeah.
seem to flame out all the time because I don't know
But I
what
mean,
it is with
to his
Kevin Durant.
credit, I mean,
Yeah.
but to his credit though, that Kyrie's gotten hurt, he's gotten hurt, and he didn't really have a whole lot of time to gel with Devin Booker last year.
You what's good, Adrian? I don't know. Like they always had the most firepower, and just something always happened in the playoffs. I know they was missing Chris Paul last year, but I'm not sure how well that would have won if he still played and he was 100%. Like you said, he wasn't 100%. Well, they didn't gel all the way because they only played what like 8 games in the regular season together.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So it
saying.
was,
Had time.
yeah, it was kind of it's been kind of weird for Kevin Durant. Like offensively, it seems like he's unstoppable offensively, but once you get to the playoffs, he's not that same person in the
No,
regular season, or he's not the same person that he was with Golden State. Because with Golden State, he was basically unstoppable. He was on an island, 1-on-1 all the time, and you couldn't do
he got
nothing
to
with him.
play more freer there, though. You know what I'm saying? He got to be more free there. So if he did fail, you got Clay and Steph to back you
Yeah,
up.
you got to
You know,
stay. And then they had Brooklyn. You had Kyrie and James Harden, but they were never on the same page the whole time. But now you got Devin Booker last year, he actually outperformed Kevin Durant in the playoffs.
yep.
So he has that second person that's gonna always be there. But then again,
Well,
that
that's what
just
I'm
that's
saying
just
is
not enough. Yeah.
what I was saying is like if you put just a little bit of pressure on Kevin Durant, he's not the same. So with Golden State,
Yeah,
he didn't have no pressure.
no, you have none at all. But Boston, when they did that, he wasn't the same player. Boston like got up into him. You could actually double team him because they would just say, "Okay, Kyrie, you could get yours. Kevin Durant, you can't get yours."
Yep.
And I guess that's how it was with the Thunder when it was just him and Westbrook. So they would say, "Well, with Westbrook, you're not going to make shots anyway, so we're just going to focus more on Kevin Durant," and that's why he wasn't like, successful with OKC. But yeah, I could see that a little. I always thought that Kevin Durant was this offensive weapon that was unstoppable because how he was with Golden State. He was so unstoppable with Golden State. I just figured that once playoff time come, you got Kyrie Irving, you got James Harden. Like if you got one extra player, Kevin Durant is just gonna destroy you, and it doesn't seem like he could do that.
You would think,
Yeah.
you know, he would. I guess it's just his character build up, man. He doesn't want to be the number one, man. Like He just wants to play ball. That's what he keeps saying. I just want to hoop. I just want to hoop. Like, well, I mean, you just want to hoop, go to the YMCA, man.
Yeah, I don't think he can be a number one. Like looking at his whole career, the only time he's been a number one was in that Olympics in 2016 that he was successful.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's never wanted to be like he's got the talent, the skill to be, but mentally he doesn't. 'Cause, I mean, he
So
gets in his feelings over a tweet, dude.
yeah, so why you think he basically can't be a number one besides him being in his feelings when things get hard?
I think that he can be as far as his skills and his talent. I mean, he like you say, the dude is unstoppable if he wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. It's like he doesn't want to be. It's like I'm just going to go out here and get 30 points, 7, 8 rebounds. We win, we win. We lose, we lose.
Mm. So
He
what
doesn't.
so
I
what you
mean,
think,
like
Travis?
I mean, specifically about I do
Yeah, yeah, Travis, your phone going in and out.
number one. Oh, sorry. Hold on one
I mean,
second.
you look at Jordan
Okay.
and LeBron, dude. They take losses hard, dude. They really do. You know, have you ever seen Kevin Durant? I mean, look at 2019. He didn't take that hard when they lost to Toronto. I mean, I know he was injured, but still, you know.
I think he took the 2012 one kind of hard because I don't know how hard he took it, but it seemed like he wanted to get back there. But
Yeah.
like you said, he doesn't look like if he lose, he lose. Like, it's just a loss. And, he gets more upset with someone calling him a name than him
Yep.
Yeah,
losing.
Durant just has an enormous ego. And yeah, I think that like yeah, kind of what you guys were saying that overrides his. Sometimes it overrides his actual focus on the game and desire to actually win, to make his teammates better. That just competitive. Because yeah, you know that when they were heavily favored last year and they lost, it was just about he's like whatever. He was super blasé about it, even though they were favored to some degree. Um, and it's just like that's kind of been the story of his career. I do think that he's been well. I mean, besides like the Golden State fiasco, I mean he's been kind of looked at unfairly, but like I think that yes, he brings it on himself by like his social media stuff. Like he really lets people get in his head rent free, and to
Yep.
some degree, like just random people. And I mean, every major athlete to some degree has to deal with that. And so he's no different, but he doesn't deal with it as well as most. So this season, I think, is going to be his last real hurrah because he's what 35 or something, and so he's
This is
gonna
his 15th year, ain't it?
yeah, and so he's gonna have it's like kind of put up or shut up right now because they have a stacked team. Yes, injuries are a factor, but if the cards are even, they should be
They
at
should.
least favored to make the final or Western Conference Finals. So we'll
I
see.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, I don't think this is his last hurrah. I don't think that. I don't think this is last because the dude averaged almost 30 last year. He can still put up buckets. I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah,
I
he can
Kevin
put up
mean,
Durant,
buckets.
he's a weird guy because you would
yeah.
think that he would just dominate. He would just dominate. Like you just have him score and he should dominate. Look at Jordan. If Jordan just scored, he's going to dominate. But Kevin Durant, I don't know. He should be able to do the same thing Jordan do points per game wise as Michael
I
Jordan.
agree.
Honestly, he should.
And like I think that with this is not a knock on anyone in particular, but I think that you're right, Ren. Like with especially in today's league where it's way easier to score, relatively speaking, than almost anywhere any era before. Then yeah, I mean he's like, hey, it's go time. We're favored. We're down by 2 or 3. It's late in the game. There's no excuse for getting shut down or putting up 3 points in a crucial 5 minute stretch. Like that's when the true winners separate themselves. Like Mike did, and Kobe, LeBron, whoever you're talking about, and Durant. If he wants to be mentioned up there and have his respect or whatever, he needs to force the issue play good when it matters, not just, I say a passive 30 points or whatever, but, get 40, get 50, whatever it takes, if like nobody else is hitting those buckets, then it's really on you. You want to make the money, you want to tell people on social media that you're that guy, then, you've got to be the guy when it matters. You don't want to get closed out by the Nuggets, because you played poorly specifically, which is kind of what happened to some degree. So
What's funny is, man, a lot of people do not criticize KD. A few people criticize him, and he gets tore up about two or three people criticizing him. But like when you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, when you see all these memes, Steph Curry beat LeBron 3 times, leaving out the fact that Kevin Durant was the league MVP and the Finals MVP. How are you going to gloss over the MVP and then say it was Curry that beat LeBron? Like, he gets protected a lot, man. Believe it or not, he gets put on the back burner. Like, how is somebody that's a 4-time scoring champion, a 2-time champion, 2-time finals champion, 2 finals MVP not get or I can't say recognition, but why don't he get, Shea cast on him like Curry does, LeBron does, hell, even Michael. Michael's got more people against him than people are against Kevin Durant. He gets the pass for creating quote unquote super teams.
I think with Kevin Durant, he basically took himself out of that conversation because of the things that he say. He just states that he wants to play basketball. He states that he's not a leader. So he gets knocked down as just being a basketball player. I remember one time they was talking about who was the greatest player of all time, and he was saying that it's Michael Jordan. He would dominate today. Like it's like not a question that Jordan would just dominate today. And for someone who's so talented, you're just going to say that Jordan would just basically destroy you if he played the same time as you. Like those are the things that Kevin Durant states that are just kind of weird.
I know
Like
he's
you
more
don't want
beta
to
than
say
alpha.
you want to compete. You don't want to compete versus. You're just going to say that it's not a question. He would be the best player in the league. Like
What do
when
you think?
it's just odd.
What do you think Kevin Durant would react if he was done like LeBron was done when he first moved to LA, where they vandalized his gate? How you think
He,
that he would have reacted to that on and off the court?
oh, like Kevin Durant wasn't even the same after he was called a name by Draymond Green. So I'm sure he wouldn't even be able to perform on the court.
I mean, didn't that happen to LeBron and then the next year go out and win the championship?
Yeah. Like, hey, what's up, Craig? We're talking about Kevin Durant and why he's not as great as a player that he should be. We all know he's great, but I was
He
saying
was
that
only
he
great
should.
in on the Warriors. That's from what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
They only think he was
yeah.
great them 3 years in Golden State.
But just thinking about how
But those
easily he
three
could
years in
score,
Golden State
he
stacked it up
yeah.
against everybody else.
Well, he was great those years, but when he's not with a team like that, it seems like his production is not the same.
It's less
Like,
impactful. His production's the
Yeah,
same, but it's less impactful.
but his production should be more on a team that's not as good as that, though. That's what Brandon's saying. Like, he's putting up his numbers with these super teams, but when he's not on a super team, his numbers are the same, which, you know, reality would tell you it should at least go up.
I understand what Craig is saying. Like, it's not as impactful. Like, look at the regular season. He's averaged 30 the last two years in the regular season. But they're actually pretty good in the regular season, his teams. But once he try to do it in the playoffs, he may get 30 points or something, but it's not as impactful as it was before. I could get that point because they're saying how scoring 30 points a game today is not as impactful as it was in the 90s or in the early 2000s. It's definitely not as impactful as today because the players are they're just better today. They're making more shots. It's hard to stop a team even if your player scores 30. So I could
Yeah,
get that
because
point,
I
but
mean,
still, yeah.
if you're only scoring 90 points, 30 is a third of the points. So when you're scoring
Yeah.
120, that's just 25% of the points.
Yeah, because 30 in, the 90s is like 40 today because of the points.
45.
That has to be like it's just different. It's just different.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of players that's scoring 50 and 60 and 70 and not even winning the games, man.
Jokic scored 50, three versus the Suns, and they lost the game. So I guess Jordan scored 63 and lost, but but still, you know,
He
that
did
was probably
force it
the
to
only
two
time in his
overtimes, though.
career that he was going. Yeah, it was about the only time in his career that he would have lost scoring 60. So that's kind of different. It's not the
Actually, he
same as
lost
today.
twice when he scored 60
He did.
to the
Yeah,
Magics.
of course.
He lost to the Magics when he scored 61 when they went to double OT. That's when Shaq
Okay.
clothesline. They lost in overtime. He had 61 and Shaq had 24 and 23. That was his rookie season.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I don't know.
it's just scoring. Like you got to do more than just scoring now. So you either
Well,
gonna
But
outscore
I'll
them
give
or you
I'll
gonna
give
play some
Jordan some
type of
credit
defense.
on this. I'll give Jordan some credit on this. It's like where you saying that the 30 when Jordan go out there and score 30, man, he's talking smack, and the way that he is scoring 30 is what was like making the other team like get in their head. But every team knows that okay, Durant's gonna go in here for 3 quarters, he's gonna give us 30. He might show up in the fourth quarter, he might not, you know. Because Jordan could be asked the first half and then come out and then take over. It's like when Durant starts taking over, he stops. He don't put that foot down on the throat, man.
Yeah, I think that it's also like in the like what you see typically is that especially the last few years, like the defensive intensity ramps up in the playoffs. And I really think that if healthy, obviously there's a lot of ifs going on to the next season, but if healthy, I think the Nuggets, if they keep their core intact, because their role players performed amazingly in these last playoffs. But I think that they'll probably be favored to come out if, like I said, if they're healthy, if Jokic and Murray, continue to play at a high level. If their team's consistently hitting shots, I don't expect them to hit like the threes at the same level they did like in the playoffs last year because it was insane. But if they're healthy, I don't think that there's a team other than the theoretical Suns, that really are going to stand a chance to beat them. But who knows? I think there's a little bit more parity the last couple of years, but I think the Nuggets should be
It's
respected.
whoever's healthy at the end of the season. That's what
really
I
it
mean,
comes
also
down
at the
to.
same
'Cause
time, man, like I know the Nuggets sweat the Lakers, but their margin of victory over all four of those games was just 10 points, man. That was a really damn close series, dude.
Yeah, I
It
don't. I
was.
don't think
LeBron
I
showed
mean,
up.
the Nuggets are head and
calls,
shoulders
a couple
above nobody.
that's what I'm saying.
No,
Like a couple calls, a couple shots go the other way. The Lakers could have just as easily swept them.
it was Jamal Murray.
Yeah,
I don't know what everybody was watching. Like they keep saying, Jokic had his great. Jokic played like Jokic. It was Jamal Murray who was closing out those games, making shots over everybody, over AD, over LeBron.
that's
Jamal
right. If
Murray
Jamal
played
Murray
like he
wasn't
was
doing
Michael
that, they ain't
Jordan.
winning. You know,
Yeah,
Like
Murray was
that
out
was
there.
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant disguised as Jamal Murray. That's how Jamal Murray played. Like he was unstoppable. Like nobody could stop him.
It was, and then you had LeBron choking away like at least two of those games single-handedly. So that was tough.
Yeah, whatever that's supposed to be, but still, like Jamal Murray was just unstoppable, making shots
but
everywhere.
we'll
So
go with that, Brandon. So
yeah,
he did that and still was able to only have a 10-point margin of victory over 4 games in year
yeah,
20.
like
Because
I don't really understand how you guys are just like it's not just Travis. Like this is what like they think that LeBron lost the series by
Well, at least
averaging
Travis
what
don't go on
28
there and
points a
call
game.
people homosexuals and retarded and dumb and shit, man. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, LeBron shot 7 of 23 in the fourth quarter for that series, so that's a tough way to go out, especially when you have the ball in your hands, the last moments for them. So really
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, it's really tough when Jamal Murray won't miss shots either. So it
Sure.
happens. That's why they won with Jamal Murray.
That's 2 years of frustration and injuries. Jamal Murray was like, "Yo, man, I've been hurt. Y'all been losing without me. Now it's gonna be Jokic couldn't win without Jamal Murray."
Man, the stars aligned for him, man. It really did.
Yeah, yeah, they knock it down shots. Like it was like the 2014 Spurs, and then add Jordan to the team. Like that's how good the Nuggets play versus the Lakers. They had to play the greatest performers in the playoff to beat the Lakers with a limping LeBron in year 20. That's how great the Nuggets had to play.
That's what I'm saying, man. A couple calls, even what Trash talking about them turnovers that he's talking about, man. The Lakers could have just as easily swept them, man.
Yeah, it was too close. I guess if you watch the series, you actually know, but most people just watched the box score. They didn't really watch the game. So
Watched every minute of it.
So, do you agree that was a pretty close series considering it did end in a sweep?
Oh, it was a super close series, and like I said, if there was various factors, but like I said, games 1 and 2. I mean, we're not talking about calls or anything. We're talking about who was making shots
Like
and
I
who was
say, even
missing
missed
calls.
shots, missed open shots. Like I'm saying, a couple shots here, a couple calls there, man. It could have been very different.
Yeah, exactly. It was a super close series. Very, very close, hard fought each game, and nail biting. But yeah, it could definitely went either way. But like Brandon said, the Nuggets were just hitting shots and hitting shots that specifically were derailing like rally attempts by the Lakers late, and those are crucial. So just put them back on their heels. Dude, Superman props to Rui and Reeves in that series. They were hitting, and especially games 1 and 2, they were hitting shots that were, and like D'Angelo to some extent, they were hitting shots that were just, I mean, arguably in another situation would have won some of those games.
Which game was it where LeBron and Jokic just like fucking threw it up at the 3-point line and went in? It was just that it was one of them games that just whatever the hell they threw up, it went in. It didn't matter.
That was game 1 and 4. He just did a Larry Bird set shot falling away and just threw it in.
Over AD, that was hilarious.
It was their time. It happens. I know in 2021 it was just the Bucks time. So we will see, what happened next year when actually the Lakers have a full, time to prepare.
That's another thing, man, that people forget about, dude. Like, look, what is this going to be, the 6th year since he's played in the East, and Giannis couldn't go back-to-back finals?
Well, I could understand a little bit last year because he was hurt for the first 3 games. I think it was the first three games he was hurt versus the Heat. So I could understand this year because he wasn't there for
but
3 games.
That still leaves 4 other years that he should have been.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's only Butler that's went from the East twice in that time, and it wasn't back to back. So I mean, it's just
it's just not easy to make the. Yeah.
I believe it was Oscar Robertson. I'm more impressed with 8 straight finals than I am what the record is.
Yeah, it's just hard to make it to the finals, even if you do think that one conference is not strong.
And being able to stay healthy to do that.
Yeah, I don't really hold it against Giannis as much as some other people, but
peaks, man. They like to talk peaks, man. A peak of 8 years of going to the finals every year in 8 years, that's a hell of a fucking peak right there, man. Regardless if you won or not. 0-8 would still be an impressive achievement.
Yeah, that's why they call Jerry West Mr. Clutch.
Yeah, he did win a finals MVP and lose.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
I think
Yeah,
Giannis is underrated.
Jerry West. I know we went back and forth with Jerry West.
Jerry's in my
You know,
top 10. I'm sorry,
yeah,
but Jerry's in my top 10.
I have to get Jerry West's props. I gotta get because I just have to go back and look what he did in this era. That guy was amazing.
I was defending Jerry West the other day over some clowns on Facebook who wanted to slander
Yep,
him.
yep, I see it.
Yeah,
It
I
was it
guess
was
my
probably my
thing was
post. It was probably my post.
Probably was.
my my thing was that y'all was saying Jerry West would have averaged 30
I
in the
still think
90s, and
that
I
man
just don't
could,
believe
man.
that.
If he's
I don't believe he could have. You know, he was
if you
great, but I
giving
don't
him
think
20 shots, if
Y'all
you
he's not
don't
up
giving
there
him
think
with
20
Jordan
Jordan.
would
shots
score
a
30
game,
in this era, and he did it for his career. Jerry West.
Jerry West, I think it really depends. It's like, okay, how does the skills translate to what I was saying is how the skills translate today. It's like shooting. Like I don't think that he's going to be like the ultimate go-to guy on a team today. But I mean, I just think that he still had great fundamentals if he's given the green light to just, fire 10 or 11 threes today and like take 25 shots. It's I think that he could easily do his numbers for his career.
yes.
Um, Easier than back then, especially like with the spacing and everything else. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think he's
and,
going to be
and
flush on people, but
actually allowed to dribble,
yeah,
like because the rules back then they'd say, man, they're unathletic. Look the way they dribble. Well, that was
yeah,
the rules. That's the way they had to fucking dribble.
yeah. And like physically
He had a
speaking,
dribble with one hand.
yeah,
Hey, Jerry West has got a crossover, dude.
I don't think he would have averaged 27 points a game today.
Jerry West got a crossover, man. These dudes today that's doing his dribbling, they learned from Pistol Pete. He played against Jerry West.
I think it depends what team he's been on. If he was on like a running, like let's say the Heat, I think he'd get close to that because they're just
I'm just
27
saying,
a
if he
game
gets 20
or
well,
30
shots
a
a game,
game.
he's averaging his points, is my point.
he'd get it. But
That
I don't
dude's
know.
quick, man. He's quick. Like, it doesn't look quick, but it's not fast. It's quick. It's like Larry. It's not fast. It's just quick.
Yeah, I mean, and also I said you have to have Jerry would have like access to everything athletes today have access to, right? We wouldn't just be
Exactly.
dropping him in. He'd be bulkier, quicker. He'd be like watching tape, be like, oh, here's some things I can add to my game.
Yep.
Totally.
Watching
Yeah,
YouTube videos.
Yeah, he's probably thinking that now.
yeah. Jerry West would not average
And Jerry
27 points
West is
today.
tough, dude. Like, the man is tough.
Yeah, he was good. He was
Did
good
you
in
ever
the,
hear, did you ever hear that story that Shaq told about him?
what's
No.
that?
Shaq, what was it? He lost the finals and was in the bathroom like pulling up the toilets, ripping the sinks out, and all this, just pissed off. He said Jerry West went in there and grabbed him by his shirt and pinned him against the wall and told him he needed to calm down. And he said West told him, he said, you got to learn how to control yourself, man, because you're going to lose these games. He said, you know how many games that I lost in the finals? He said, I lost 8 just to win 1. And Shaq said after he told me, he's like, man, this is the greatest player, that people talk about. He's a great player and all that. And he lost that many times and is still like determined to go out there and win and not quit and give up. A tough old man right there, dude.
Yeah,
Look that
he's
story
great.
up.
He's great. Like everybody knows Jerry West. I don't think he'll average 27 today or 27 in the 90s. I just don't think
You won't
that.
be shooting like that. Remember, there's no tools, so he had to shoot like 25 times just to put up 27. He ain't attempting that
His
many shots.
career is 20 points a game. That is his career, 20 points a game.
20
shots a
field
game.
goal attempts.
20 shots a game is
Hmm.
what his career average is. So that's what I'm saying. If you giving him 20 shots a game, the man's going to get you at least 27. Plus, he's going to do it because he's got the 3-pointer. I mean, the dude's got half court shots that he makes that only counted for 2 fucking points.
It's like
Granted, today
saying
would have been 3.
if you give Jimmy Fredette 20 shots a game today, he'll average 30 points like he did in college or something. Like that's just not going to happen. There's more than just getting shot attempts in a game. Like
Yeah, but
we don't
he's
know
got a
how
pure
he would
shot, man. He's
translate.
got
Yeah,
one of the purest shots, dude.
Jimmy Fredette did too. I
Well, I
mean, the
mean,
dude was
You're sleeping
averaging
on him,
35 a game. I'm not
Jerry,
sleeping
man.
on Jerry West. I just don't think he would average 27 today and 30 in the 90s. I just don't think he would.
I do, man. I believe with all my heart.
I know you do. You you have been on this thing for probably forever that he would dominate. But he dominated in the 60s and the 70s when
Yeah,
he
I
was in
mean,
it, he was great. He was unstoppable. He, like you said, he been won finals MVP when he lost. That's how good he was. But I don't know. I don't think Elgin Baylor will average 30 and 15 a day either.
yeah, I mean, it's always tough
well,
to see.
Elgin did take a lot of shots to get his points, though. I mean, he's took the most shots in NBA history, for career average.
I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
tough to. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Travis.
I was just saying it's tough to say for sure, like whose game would translate or whatnot. Like a lot of that just really comes down to be honest, the eye test, where you're just saying, hey, I think this is. But you can see certain skills as as a student of the game, like you're watching things like that. But I think that certain players' numbers were not due to their system, and then others were organically. I can't say for sure whether Jerry West would be like 23rd. I think that he'd fit in perfectly to whatever scheme the team he's on would trying to run, especially if he was starting. But it really just depends. Players like I think what about random, but I think like players like Penny Hardaway would be fantastic today. Rod Strickland,
Yeah.
give me a prime T-Mac today. T-Mac would be like a 35, 8-8 guy today, like with ease.
I don't think
And
so.
then
What
I
I'm
mean,
saying about Jerry
he
West,
would.
like what you talked about the eye test, man. How quick he is to just pull up at any moment to pull up and shoot.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what Steph Curry does. I mean, in any era, that's going to translate. If you're able to be quick enough to get the shot up before the defender can do anything and hit, that's going to translate, man. That's
especially
what I'm saying.
like you look at today's. I mean, this is not really a knock, but like you look at other than places in the playoffs, players today, like they're just out there to like kind of go through the motions. They don't. There's not a ton of shots being challenged. There's like, okay, he shot it. They're already running back on defense. There's no crashing the glass. There's really
It's
just mad
harder to play
provisions out there.
defense today. That's why.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
everyone is shooting. Yes, everyone
it's
is
harder to
shooting,
play
so it's
defense
hard to
if you
play
don't
defense.
try. Yeah, I mean, it's like
I
okay,
mean, they all
you
trying.
really,
It's just hard to guard everybody. Switching the offensive schemes is different. It's just
That's what
not
I'm saying, man. You going to tell me that
going
Jerry
to the
West can't hit an
post
open
and
shot?
shooting.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I wouldn't say couldn't make open shots. If Jerry West was like 6'7", 6'8", okay, I would believe he would average 30. But since he's 6'2", and he's not physically dominant over anybody, I don't think he would average the same as Michael Jordan. I just don't.
Well, I mean, Steph Curry's smaller than him. And like I say, Jerry West's shot is to able to fucking pull up real quick and shoot, man. It's probably faster than Steph Curry's. He's got a
I
really
don't know about
fast
that.
release, man, and it don't matter how his body is shifted, what way or another, man. He's quick with it, dude. If he didn't have that, he wouldn't be who he was, and that's even back then.
So are you saying Jerry West is better than Steph?
Yes,
Or would you put him above Steph all time?
yes.
What about you, Travis?
no,
And
no
I'm
way.
guessing what about you, Greg?
You really gonna ask me that?
Yeah,
Steph
he's
is
points per game,
Steph is undisputably the
averages.
best. Steph is undisputably the best shooter of all time. I mean, I'm not delusional enough to be like, hey, look, he has every which way you want to do it, and he did it in volume. Like it's fun to play the Jerry West game, and I have mad respect for Jerry West, obviously, but I don't think he'd be I think a great maybe post. I think he'd adapt a killer post game maybe, and like he'd be quick. But Steph Curry is just I don't think we'll ever see
I know he
anything
had
like
to
what
learn
he's
how to
done
dribble with
before.
the other hand.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see like another player like Steph Curry again because you say generational talent. Curry is
Uh,
basically the definition of that.
I mean, Dame is doing kind of the same thing and stuff, offensive wise, the
I
handles and
mean,
the shooting.
kind of.
Clay
Dame, they
Young,
just ain't got a team to put him in the
Clay
forefront
Young.
to be considered the greatest shooter. So that's his issue. His team is his
Look,
fault.
I
He
think
ain't nobody calling him great.
2016 Steph was probably the best player we've ever seen. Just from we've never seen that before, and we never thought anything like that could be done. In my opinion,
Dame is the greatest shooter in the state of Oregon.
All right,
yeah.
so okay, I got a question. Chad, do you think Jerry West, if he played today, would he be a shooting guard or a point guard?
He'd be a shooting guard because he's actually 6'4".
He's 6'4". He's listed as 6'2".
Hey, those listings lie, man. That man's 6'4". Look
And
at the other people around him.
Elgin
He
He's
Baylor is
grew when
six
he
6'2"
five, and
retired.
today. He's 6'2"
he's definitely
today at 80
shorter.
years old.
I'm
He's
just saying,
6'2"
like
today.
when he was playing, Elgin Baylor 6'5", and he was definitely not close to his height. He looks like he possibly could maybe be 6'3", but I think he's about 6'2". I think they got his height right.
I tend to say point guard.
Well, he
He had a
played
super high
point guard.
basketball
He's
IQ.
listed as point guard most of his career, but everyone
Yeah,
considers him a shooting guard.
Because he shot. He's a guard that shoot.
yeah. I think it's tough to say because he was really quick. But I don't think it really depends what team, everything context, what team is he going on. I'd say he's probably going to be point guard, but maybe switch because it's a quote unquote positionless game today to some degree. So I could do, both.
I say he'd
Okay,
be more of a shooting guard. I don't know about him actually, running the offense.
Okay, so his quickness, you guys keep talking about. What player that you could say is like Jerry West quick today? Like, who would he relate to quickness wise today?
As far as his shot quickness,
No, you just say he's like quick, like
what I'm
is
saying
he
is
quick
quick
like?
is like whenever somebody's on him, like when he's dribbling and you're on
Uh,
him and you're covering good, that able to just at the spur of the moment jump up over you before you can react. I mean, like as far as running across the court, no, he's not fast.
okay,
I
His,
think
his
but
pull
he's
up, his release, his release. And it
okay.
like I say,
Release
it's
is
Steph
quick.
Curry, Trey Young.
yeah. I
But
was
y'all also got to forget they didn't have the technology and advancement that we had today. They didn't have the Nike tennis shoes. They literally had
Yeah.
real tennis shoes. They didn't have all that
just
technology
looking at tape.
and advancements
Looking
that
at
they
tape,
had.
I'd say that a lot of his game reminds me to some degree of, especially just the pull-up game, Devin Booker. To some degree,
Yeah.
if you're taking in volume, form, stroke, style, he'll run 5 feet, he'll do a nice pull-up. To some degree, he'll credit Kobe for that. But I mean, I think that West looks a lot like that in some of the highlights. But obviously,
Okay.
maybe not as dynamic, but to some degree,
So he's a 6'2" Devin Booker.
sure.
Okay,
I don't really care about their heights. I'm just saying their style and everything like that.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, like
Watch just when you watch his highlights, man. Just watch his shot. Don't look at the dribbling or how fast he runs. Just look at how quick he can just stop and pull up, man, and then swish.
Now, the only thing I disagree with Bill about is I don't think that West is a top 10 player by any measurement, but I think that he was underrated as heck.
so. Trav, do you think he's a top 20 player, top 25 player,
Top 20 for sure.
top 20
Just
for sure?
because
Okay.
I think his record, despite it being, I mean, his finals appearances to some degree, because he was the alpha for the most part on those teams. His stat line, defensive accolades as well, because he wasn't a slouch on that end either, warrant at least a top 20. So,
Okay. Do you guys think he's better than? Well, not better, but you think he's a greater player than Oscar Robertson?
that's such a tough. I mean, prime from prime, probably. I think he was better defensively than Oscar, and I think he was just as good as a
I got
scorer.
Oscar ahead of Jerry.
So you got Oscar and Jerry West in
Remember,
your top
people
10.
had Oscar in their
Yep.
top 10 not too
Yep.
long ago.
I don't have
ESPN
Oscar in my
did.
top 10, but
ESPN
I
had
got
Oscar Robertson in the top 10.
I got Oscar. I think either 8 or 9
What about
because I got
Elgin
Dr. J
Baylor?
in my top 10 too.
eBay.
Well, I can understand if you put Dr. J in a top 10 if you combine his ABA and
I
NBA
do. I
career.
comply in his
But
whole
with this
professional
NBA,
career.
I wouldn't put him in top 10 just for NBA.
His whole professional career.
Hey,
I have a
Craig,
pretty
why would
unmovable
you
top
put
10.
Dr. J in the top 10?
I would what I'm saying. I said I can understand if someone had him in his top 10 if they
Okay.
had his ABA and NBA career combined because that's hard to. some of them ABA MVPs could have been NBA MVPs if he was in the league at the time.
Yeah, I definitely think Dr. J gets disrespected all the time. They don't even include him nowhere near the top 10 if they're really talking about
Korea
him.
wouldn't have 6 league MVPs if he was in the league the same time.
Yep.
I just think it's tough to. I mean, my only controversial top 10 player I think is Curry. But I mean, for the most part I've had the same top 10 for forever. But it's just like you can
only
interchange.
active player you should be in your top 10 is LeBron. I don't think no one else in the top 10 should be active.
I don't know, man. It's just like, how do you not have the best shooter of all time in your top 10? I mean, confirmed, and he has the hardware and the accolades to some degree. Like, how do you not have him top 10?
So now we gotta. So we're doing the top 10 now on when people each statistical category. Well, that
There's
goes
10
past
people
10.
who has better accolades than Steph Curry. So I
Sure.
don't know. Yeah, so I wouldn't say because it's his accolades. It was just because the way he shoot the ball in the regular season. That's the only way you could put him in the top 10. But I don't see Steph Curry in the top. I don't see him in the top 15 to be honest with you.
I don't see him in the top 20.
I mean, I just don't see how you can't. I mean, when someone changes the game like that, and what he did to the 3-ball volume wise, and he's a league MVP twice, and he has 4 rings, primarily being arguably the alpha on most of them except for 2. But I mean, you can argue. But I just understand, like, how do you not have him? Not even top 20. I mean, that's great. I can see maybe if you don't have him in your top 10, but there's no way he's outside top 15. Otherwise, you're just not being objective. But I mean, it's just. I mean, you can hate on him, but
That's not hating on him.
I mean, when someone's the best at something, like a category,
That's what I'm saying. How many categories is there? So is that how we doing the top 10? We just doing it by categories now?
No,
I mean, Steve Curry has. I mean, Steve Kerr has the highest percentage in 3 points.
Sure,
and he's not top 10.
It's like I said, if you're guaranteed, if you're definitely the best shooter by every metric, like you have the most threes made.
Is it field goal percentages or totals? Is how are we doing that now?
It's both. With Steph Curry, it's both, man. He has every 3-point record, basically, that you can think of.
Yeah, he definitely has the 3-point record.
Okay, so
I don't think that justify him being top 10 though. That's what I'm.
He has 2
sure
MVPs.
Jordan has the most mid-range shots. So you know the best mid-range shooter of all time.
I mean, sure.
Is it Ray Allen or Dirk Nowitzki at the free throw line?
I mean, before Steph Curry had the record, no one was saying Ray Allen was a top 10 player.
Yeah, because Ray Allen wasn't hitting 10 threes a game and like hitting 600 a season or whatever it was. Like,
but he was number 1. He was on top. You say if he has the most, he should be in the top 10.
It's more than just
has Steph Curry stretched it out so far that nobody can achieve it?
Yeah, no one's ever going to do what he did again.
Well, currently, I don't know ever because these players are shooting more and more threes as it is. Even LeBron shooting 8.
You'll get benched for not taking the 3 than you are than taking the 3. Like, what you doing against taking the mid range? Sit your ass down.
It's like when you're shooting over 40% from 3 and you're taking 10 threes a game, and you're scoring 30 points, and you're winning MVPs, and you're the best player on your team for 4 rings. That's the combined resume.
For 4 rings. That's the problem. That's
I
one of the
mean,
problems.
he was the best for
Right.
at least 2, arguably 3. But I mean, sure, Durant was there, but
Definitely not 3.
Kareem got 6 rings with 2 final MVPs. Some people got him top 3.
no, it's because he got
Well,
6
he
MVPs.
should have 3 though.
Yeah,
He
they
got
actually
robbed.
gave his stuff to Magic, but
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's just my opinion. Like, I have Curry top 10. I mean, I don't think he's the GOAT or anything, but you know, I don't think see how he could leave him off.
Yeah, I got him outside my top 10, but a lot of people are putting him in the top 10. People in the media and everything, like, you know,
That's what I
they're
was saying
they're
earlier.
taking out Wilt Chamberlain and Shaq for Steph Curry, and I don't think Steph Curry was more dominant than those 2 players, but to them he was.
Well, like I said, that's what I was saying earlier, where they're talking about, was Steph Curry's 4-2. His record's better than LeBron, and he's beat LeBron 3 times, but glossing over that Kevin Durant was the Finals MVP and was the clearly the better player on the court.
Well, in reality, he wasn't the best player on his team when they beat
They're
LeBron. If you
mesmerized
want
by
to put
a
it that way.
3-point shot, man, and I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. You'd be crazy to say he's not, but I can count 20 other players that I think is better.
Yeah, I could maybe count. I'd maybe give you 15, maybe. Like, I think he's top 15. I just don't think he's top 10.
Well, he can't be top 10. He's still playing. I don't feel like only LeBron get that privilege of being in top 5, 2, 10 while still being active. But anyone else still active, they can't be in the top 10. They still playing. You don't know what they would do. And you
I
put them
mean,
top 10 now, and then they
Curry
fall off drastically.
Curry is 35, so he played long enough. He's old enough to be in the top 10. Like, once you get around 35, you could be put in the top 10. I thought Kevin Durant was going to be put in the top 10, but like we were saying, like, he just don't have it to be that top 10
He's a
player of all
hooper.
time.
He's not a basketball player. He's a hooper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, in reality, Kevin Durant's better than Steph Curry.
I would say his physical attributes make him, but not.
I mean, he was better when he
because
was on the
skill,
team.
because of his physical. You got a 7-foot guy who can shoot.
But the mental thing is what separates.
Man, I be honest with you. I think Kevin Durant going to Golden State hurt both of them. Hurt Steph Curry because if Steph Curry would have won 3 rings,
it either hurt him or
he would
helped him.
definitely be in the top 10. He would definitely be in the top 10 if he won 3 rings. He would definitely be in the top 10 if Kevin Durant didn't play with him. Like, there would be no way to keep him out the top 10. But I think that part
But I
kind of
don't
hurt
see him
him.
winning 3 rings either.
Yeah, he has 4, but those 2 with Kevin Durant kind of hurt him a little bit. Even the mom says it hurts Kevin Durant too because
He
it
wouldn't have
feels like
none.
he didn't earn those rings, even
He
though he
wouldn't
was
have
the
had none.
Finals MVP. Yeah, it didn't really get him what he wanted, and that's why he left. It didn't give him what he wanted.
I think it hurts Durant a lot more than Curry because Durant was the guy who took them to 7 games on his own team, quote unquote, the year before, and then ran to Curry. But I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, look at other greats. Like, okay, do we dock Shaq for, Kobe dropping, 28, 8-8 or whatever during the first 3 rounds of their playoff series or whatever, and giving him massive help. Yeah, he was the Finals MVP, but arguably Kobe was the best player throughout those Western Conference playoffs most series. I mean, we don't dock Shaq for that.
Shaq
Kobe
was
gets
clearly
old
the
today.
best player on the team, though. He was the most dominant player in the league.
Shaq was cumulatively the best player on the team, but there were times when Kobe was better against the best competition, like the prime Spurs. Kobe was better than Shaq that series in 01 and 02, basically, against the Blazers. But Shaq really dominated the finals because he was facing garbage centers aside from Mutombo. But, I mean, we don't hold that again. I've never used that argument against Shaq. Shaq's definitely a top 10 player. But, I mean, I don't think it's fair to dog Curry because Curry's numbers were great in those playoffs too with Durant.
Yeah, they were great, but Kevin Durant was better, and Kevin Durant was clearly the best player on that team. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like when you're not the clear cut, it's like Michael Jordan and Pippen. Pippen was amazing, but Jordan was clear cut the best player on the team. So you can't
Yeah.
say that with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. It wasn't clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. And if Steph Curry, I think Steph Curry should have won the Finals MVP in 2015 and in 2018. But for some reason, the media didn't want to vote Steph Curry. I don't understand why. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
It
that was one
makes
of the
no
biggest
sense.
robberies, huge robbery in
Both of
15,
those series,
especially.
because
Yeah,
Kevin Durant had that one great game versus the Cavs in 2018, and Steph Curry was the best player for 3 of those games.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, so, I
I
mean,
still don't know
it's
how
really sad
Iguodala won.
He
Because he
won
guarded Jordan,
because
or because he guarded LeBron.
because they said he clamped LeBron, which he
he
really didn't.
LeBron
he
averaged like a
did
33.
he
That's what I'm
36,
saying.
36, 13, and like 9. But the thing was with Iguodala that when he came in, the series changed. I don't think it really changed because of Iguodala. They really put LeBron in a box. They played him like Giannis. Iguodala was just the one guarding him, forcing him into everybody.
It was the
So Steph,
narrative that Steve
yeah,
Kerr decided to start Iguodala that made it
yeah,
feel like he was the most important piece of the series.
I mean, he kind of was, though.
the media does stupid things a lot. I'll always say LeBron should have been defensive player of the year, but the media didn't want to vote him defensive player of the year, and they have got 2 Finals MVPs wrong for Steph Curry, and I don't know why they do this. I don't know the point of it, but that's what they do. They look at a narrative, and that's why we can't always solely go by awards because you
Yeah,
know it doesn't make sense a lot of times.
yeah. That's why I say you could never just say someone's accolades are the sole reason they're in. Like they're told about his work for sure. I mean, that's why you got people like Tim Duncan. He had one of the best cumulative careers of all time. But he didn't average eye popping stats, right? But he was still
No,
amazing.
not at all. Yeah, when we look at the totality of his career, he's
Yeah,
one of the top
Never missed
players
the
of all
playoffs
time,
in
really.
20 seasons.
yeah.
50 games, all 50 wins, all. I mean, the dude was pretty amazing, and he's not going
Arguably
to
the
get
biggest.
that credit.
Yeah, I agree. Like arguably the biggest impact player, or one of them of all time. I mean, especially defensively.
Yeah, and he never won a defense player of the year, and he
Yeah,
probably the time that he played, I don't think there was a better defensive player for their career.
yeah. Hard to argue that. What does he have? Like 14 defensive selections, and like
15,
it's just, yeah,
15 in
15.
19
Insane.
years.
That's
Crazy.
insane. I mean, yeah. Who like you had different? You had some. I think that was probably from 2000 and 2010 or 11 was probably the best mix of talent. I would say, in my opinion, the league has ever seen, as far as just like the best people in the primes, and you had just like constant wars with some of the better teams. Like you had Durant, or you had Kobe, Shaq, Pippen was still out there, Duncan, like prime Spurs going on, Celtics were there. It was just a fun time.
But it's always the same
Kings.
teams, no matter what era we in. It's always the
Yeah,
same
there you
group of
go.
teams, no matter
That's
what
true, but
era
those
we in.
playoffs were amazing. Like every year was just like a war zone.
Yeah, it's like the same 4 teams every year, but it's up in the 90s. It was just always the Bulls.
Yeah.
But
That's why I
that
hated them.
was, yeah, that was like, I guess it's like the only time period that there was like just one dominant team for a decade, and it sucks that we never got the Rockets and Bulls. I know they
Yeah.
all say that the Rockets would have beat the Bulls. I personally don't think the Rockets would have beat the Bulls, but
I do. I do in
I
95,
don't think so.
94. I think the Bulls would beat them.
I think in
Taking away Horace Grant was
95 they would have beat
the
them
tournament.
because Jordan left for those years. But if they had their team together, I don't
It's
think the
just
Rockets could
yeah,
have beat any of the Bulls championship teams.
That's what I
yeah,
said. I said I see the
Mm,
Bulls beating them in '94 if Jordan stays, but in
yeah.
'95 if Horace Grant leaves, I don't see the Bulls beating
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Rockets.
definitely. Like if they don't
That's
have
what I
Horace
said.
or Rodman, it would have been different. Yeah, it would have been
yeah.
different. But if
It's
the
just such
Bulls
a
had
tough.
their team, yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. Like because you had Hakeem arguably having the best couple seasons of his career then, and then I mean I have such respect for Hakeem, but it's like
I, I don't think no center in the '90s could hold Jordan to
No,
score
man,
under 30.
'94. If that team from '93 was in
yeah,
'94, dude, and then add Tony Kukoc, yeah, they're not beating. They're not beating the Bulls,
'93
man.
Mike wasn't really fair. I think '91 and '93 Mike was the best
No,
basketball player we've ever seen from
I
like
said
a
92, Mike.
all around perspective. But I mean, Hakeem, I'd said this before. He's probably one of the top two people I'd draft to start a team. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't. I think the Bulls would win just because who's guarding Mike? He's dropping 40 on you, and I mean Hakeem's do his thing, but the Bulls were just more well rounded. I think just as a they
Yeah,
had a good
yeah,
matchup with the Knicks and the
yeah.
Magic to some degree.
Just like Craig said, I think '92 was the best Jordan we ever seen. I know '93 he averaged those crazy amounts in the finals, but he was kind of losing his passion of the game. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to give up '92 as the best Michael Jordan we seen, even though he
Hard to
didn't.
argue that. Yeah, 91,
I don't.
92 is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. That season he was, you know, he
Yeah.
up there with LeBron. Those the two greatest players of all time, I think.
That's why I said. That's why I don't care what people say LeBron's the GOAT. This to be having Jordan like top 12 or 16th place. That's like
Hey, Chad, where is Jordan in your top 10?
Dude, Jordan's barely top 30 to me, honestly. So, I mean, I think that if your top five is anything other than like Mike, LeBron, Kareem, Wilt, and like, Duncan, I can respect somebody as Kobe, but if it's anything other than that, I think that you're wrong. But
I
I mean,
always thought the
Hey,
top five
Chad, are
should
you
be
still there?
that five best players at
Yeah.
each position.
Hey, where is Jordan in your top 10?
5.
5, okay, because I knew he wasn't up there as
come
far.
on, Bill.
I mean, that's
Have your
he
back,
has his
Chad.
Hey,
reasons.
Cal,
He has his reasons. He has his reasons.
I've gave us a objective list, and it had LeBron at number 1. But my personal opinion, Michael Jordan's at 5 and LeBron's at 3.
What? Who's the GOAT then?
Bill
Bill.
Russell.
Okay, to be fair, I've said before on this show that if everything was equal, as in like if all the awards were available in the 60s and every player was starting from scratch and everything was available, then Bill Russell would probably be the GOAT.
And that's why I got him
Because he'd
number
have
1,
like 9
among other things.
DPOYs. But
Among
like
other
I said,
things.
you'd also have to say if every player existed at the same time, then Bill Russell wouldn't be a top 30.
I'm pretty sure if Jordan only had to win 2 playoff series, he'd have been having more than 6 championships.
Yeah, if
I'm
Mike
pretty
played in
sure if
the 60s
LeBron
on the
had to win
Celtics,
only 2
dude,
playoff series, he'll have more than 4 championships.
I mean,
like I
they
said,
would have to play the same team, so I don't
yeah,
think it'd be a
So,
difference.
so
you have the
let's
argument of
let's look
Y'all want
like
context,
football.
right?
Like
I
football.
mean, if
How
Jordan
come
only had to play 2 series,
make the
he
same team
wouldn't be in
win
the
football
playoffs
every year?
a
This
lot
is
of the
they only got to
times.
play one game.
Bill played in the era where the
It's harder
whole
to
league
win
made the playoffs.
one game than it is a 7-game series, man.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's a lot different from saying having a conversation of who dominated their area. And that's a fair conversation to have when you're ranking. But I think that also, if you're just looking at players, like especially if you're looking at them now, even with the advancements and stuff like that, I think that Bill probably wouldn't even start on most teams. And that's not taking anything away from what he did. But if you're just saying pound for pound, who can play in any era, who was the best player, then get Bill out of there, dude. Like, there's no freaking way he's going to be the GOAT if you're just talking about, here's all my cards on the table. That would be people like Shaq, Duncan, Hakeem, Mike, LeBron, Kobe for sure. But I think Bill
even
played
Will.
exactly the way he needed to. That's what I'll say.
What I want to say is we need to like kind of throw out this narrative about the competition of that era because there were only 8 to 10 teams. If there was only 8 to 10 teams in the 90s, it will be an amazing era because all the players will be playing versus each other.
It would be like the dream
Like
team.
saying that because it's only 8 to 10. Like, do you even know how sports work? If the best players are on 8 to 10 teams instead of 30, it would be a lot different. It would be a totally different game.
Were they that great? How many players was actually great at that time? You named the
great
whole
in that era, though.
one team, and then sporadically everybody else
was
had
great
one
in that
player.
era.
The Hawks had 5 Hall of Famers.
It was great in that era.
The Hawks had 5 Hall of Famers on their team.
Yeah, I mean that's how you get into the argument with the eras. It's like, okay, if we're talking about eras, that's fair. Then you're talking about they exist in a vacuum because you're just looking at that snow globe and saying, hey, cool. So doesn't matter how many teams were, that's the way it was. Who was the best?
So
then you have Bill Russell.
Where you're shitting on Bill Russell's time, and then get mad when people shit on Jordan's time.
Yeah, I don't even think Bill was the best player in that era. That was Will. Yeah, Will was better than Bill.
That's what I'm saying. You could put Wilt in the same argument with Shaq.
I got Wilt at number 2.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument for Bill being better than Wilt, except for winning.
He's a better defender.
I think the Wilt. I mean, was he though?
Stella.
Yeah, he was. He got the top 10 defensive win shares.
I think Wilt would have more blocks and more steals.
His whole career is the best defensive win share ever.
Yeah, he has. I think like 8,
sure,
8 in a row though.
Give me Wilt.
It was 8 straight years in a row.
Sure, but give me Bill or Wilt over Bill anytime.
Well, Wilt as a total player, but just
so I'm saying I got Bill at number 1 and Wilt at number 2.
I do think we need to throw out this conversation about Wilt played in like a easier and Bill and Wilt played in like an easier era. Like that's we can't really say that. So
I agree. I don't hold that against anybody. I don't hold that against anybody when I'm ranking them. Like they can't, like, they didn't have time travel machine, whatever. But I think if you're talking about who dominated the era, I think Wilt or Bill for sure. But I'd say
Bill and Will had to play through either.
Will, like, who dominated the era the best? Arguably, I've always said it was Kareem. His era was 70s to early 80s, 6 MVPs. Like a ridiculous timeline.
Dr. J.
If Dr. J was there, I mean, there's always that,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to say. Yeah, because like Brandon said, you can't just dismiss something because you can't really hold it to today's standards like you put with eras.
I have Lou ahead of Dr. J though.
Lou.
That's why with the advanced stats, I don't really like to use advanced stats too much because look at Jokic. His stats are, oh my goodness, little boys. These stats are like his advanced stats are off the charts, but I don't think he's more dominant than Jordan.
With that, I agree. I just say give it a few more years. We'll see where they level off. Because those stats have peaked specifically like the last 3 years, right? When he was playing MVP ball. If he can sustain that for another, 6-7 years, then be like, hey, that's clarity. That paints a total picture. But no, I don't think he was as dominant. I think he was, as far as, creating gravity where you're like, hey, he's in a pass or he's in a score, he's great. But yeah, the advanced stats are misleading to a degree because of just like the nature of his game. I just hope at this point I'd probably take Giannis if I'm starting a team, just because he's so dominant on both ends. But yeah, the advanced stats are tough. I think you gotta look at him through a whole career. Like LeBron has incredible advanced stats too. And he's, you're 21 going on, so you can kind of rightly say, hey, let's look at LeBron's and Mike's and David Robinson, stuff like that, and just kind
Yeah,
of look
that's
at it.
still kind of hard too because,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The only advanced stats I use is the value over replacement, and Michael Jordan and like LeBron are the best in that. When Michael Jordan was playing, he was always the best because he was the most valuable player on the court every year since 87. He was the most valuable player on the court. You could obviously see that he was,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only advanced stats that I like to use. I don't really like PER because that adjusted for like pace. Of course, Michael Jordan
Mm-hmm.
was number one when he was playing. LeBron was number one when he was playing too. Like versus his competition. But I believe value over placement is like the best to choose. And what Jordan has, what, 6 of the top 10 in the first place. But I do think that's like the only one that I really use.
I like four, but I think it's a little bit misleading just because it directly compares you to
Your
whoever
teammates.
your teammate and not
Yeah.
really against the other guys. But I think my favorite event, I agree with you about PER. I think that it can be manipulated to a degree because it takes into account like turnovers and stuff like that. It's not just like your field goal finish. But I mean, it's my favorite one to use is has always been blocks plus minus because I think that really directly correlates to more of like what you have as an impact on your team, whatever team that is, regardless of how good they are. That measures how much of an impact you have from game to game.
Specifically.
Well, the thing with that is, say for instance, Steve Kerr and Jordan played the exact same minutes together. Their box plus or minus would be exactly the same.
I mean, sure, but then you have. I mean, did Steve Kerr? Are you going to say Steve Kerr played the exact minutes every single
I'm just
time
saying if
Jordan
they
did?
played the exact same minutes, him and Jordan, they will have the same box plus or minus.
I
That's
mean,
why
they
I don't
would,
really
but
use
that
that
never
as
happens, though.
I'm just saying it can't, like, they will have the same if they played the same, like they went in and checked out at the same time. So I believe when you're comparing your teammates versus each other, value of replacement is the best one to use.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that 100% because it's specifically what it's designed to do.
So that's why I think that's the best to use, and that's why I believe Michael Jordan and LeBron James are two greatest to ever play the game.
Yeah,
And Jordan had the most impactful seasons. Well, like me and Chad was saying, like we can't really fully use that for every player because Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell will be off the charts in those areas,
yeah.
especially Wilt. He would be off the charts. But for me, the two players that I've seen is Michael Jordan and LeBron, and we could measure those.
Mm-hmm. Give me David Robinson too, man. Like I think
I
for
think he
like,
has like the second highest of
yeah,
all time, something
he's
like that. It
crazy,
was,
man.
yeah. I didn't know he was that great, but
I
I thought,
mean,
I knew he was great, but I didn't know he was that great when I
yeah,
started looking at how
Well, the
he
sad
was.
part to David
yeah,
Robinson is honestly is when he went to the Navy, he had to wait 2 years before he could get into the NBA after he graduated or after he was
Uh,
drafted. And the
yeah,
positive to that is that in the Navy you have to wait 5 years. But David Robinson was too tall to be in the Navy, but he was already in because when he first got in there, he wasn't too tall. He had a growth spurt in the Navy.
yeah.
So they cut him 2 years off because he wasn't supposed to be in there. So he actually lost maybe 2 or 3 years there of when he was young. And he had a hell of a 7 year stretch when he actually got into the league before he was kind of considered on the decline. So I mean
Yeah,
yeah,
he
he could
came
have
in
had
ready. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when you're talking about the most impactful players, like you can talk about Rob, you could talk about who's had the biggest impact on their team, especially like from a singular year perspective. Like it's like 81 Bird or whatever, and you can talk about like '07 Braun, maybe 2000 Shaq. I don't know. There's just been like lightning strike seasons where you're just like, wow, that guy is carrying that team, or what are they without him? So it's just
I
Robinson was
mean,
up
you're
there.
right. And that's why I put LeBron over Jordan, man. It's because he sustained that, man, for 20 years, dude. Like,
I mean, I don't think he's been carrying teams for 20 years. I think he's been consistently great for 20 years. I think he got, well, not carried, but I think that he wasn't even his best player on his team in 2020. If you're looking at everything all together,
but what?
AD
But
led in points,
again,
boards,
if
steals,
Jordan would have
blocks.
played for 20 years, would he have been
I
the
mean,
same thing?
also like LeBron was second in the MVP in 2020, so he obviously wasn't being carried
No,
like
yeah,
you're
he wasn't
saying,
being
Travis.
carried. I don't think he should have been that high in MVP voting. I think AD was snubbed big time because AD was the guy who was doing the heavy lifting for the most part. He led the playoffs in scoring. He led his team scoring. He was better defensively, and all advanced metrics. Led in points, boards, blocks, steals. But LeBron, yeah, was no slouch that year. But I mean, and to answer Bill's question, no, I think Mike was clearly on the decline. Obviously, we saw Mike at 40, and he was a
that's
shell
with
of
rest.
himself. Yeah, but I mean, I think, yeah, obviously LeBron has the best longevity of all time, especially when you're talking about
What
consistency.
I'm saying, man. That's where I'll defend LeBron on anything when they start talking about that longevity shit, man. Like, come on, man, dude. That's not
No,
a knock
I
on
think there's a
somebody.
difference.
And
I've always said
it's
there's a
not a
difference
knock on
between.
somebody, but there has been other players to play that long, if not longer, and has not done that.
I agree. There's
So,
a
I
difference
mean,
between longevity and consistency, and LeBron has both. So
Yeah, still like in 2020, LeBron was the best player on this team. Like I don't know how someone
Until they
say he
got that
wasn't.
5-month break and then AD got healthy and took over.
I mean, I just
Where
can't say that he
where
was,
did he take over at? Where did he take over at? And what?
This is when the joke went over your head. The 5-month break.
So
I'm not talking about you in specific, Craig, but they're saying like Travis was saying that Anthony Davis was the best player on the team. I don't know how.
I'm saying Anthony
Like,
Davis played his best that season because he got a 5-month break in between seasons, so he didn't get hurt.
So AD during the regular season led them in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, PER, shooting percentage, box plus minus, pretty much everything. LeBron led in assists, which is great, but AD was the guy, and he led the entire
LeBron was
playoffs
clearly
as
the
well.
guy. LeBron was clearly the guy. LeBron was
close were their
clearly
stats?
the guy.
You
Yeah.
said lead, but how close were their stats?
Their stats were close, man. But I mean,
Okay.
how does one guy lead in
So
virtually
you don't
every
think
stat and he's not the best?
that the attention to LeBron made it a little easier for AD
y'all
too?
y'all say Pippen was better than Jordan because he led in all those categories. Y'all can't change your opinion now.
It's the attention drawn.
No, that's basically what Travis was saying. If you lead in more categories, you're better. So he's saying that Pippen was better than Jordan because he led in more categories or something.
But that's
like
what y'all be
that
posting.
ridiculous.
That's the reason why y'all think that. People
Because this is
think
the
that.
argument that we got to go against.
But no, he did
Y'all
that
going against your own argument in this one.
He did that for an entire season, and he led the entire playoffs that year in points scored.
No,
I mean,
we say that Pippen was not trash. We never said Pippen was better than Jordan. Like we say Pippen was not trash because of he led in the final playoff runs. He led in 4 of the top 5 categories. But Travis is saying
Jordan
that
fans
in
that say
total.
Pippen is trash. It's casual Jordan fans.
So
that
we
say
have to
Pippen
remind
is
them
trash.
that he wasn't. We have to
I've never
remind him
said
that he
Pippen's
wasn't.
trash ever. No, Pippen, I think, is a top 40 guy.
But
top
you
30.
are using those stupid narratives to say that. Like LeBron James was the leader of the team. He led the team. He made sure AD got his. He made sure AD ate. He wasn't going to take the shine away from AD because he knew that he needed AD and he made sure AD played well. And in the playoffs, when it mattered, of course, LeBron was the Finals MVP for a reason because when it's time to go, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna put y'all on my back." And that's what happens in the finals.
I'm gonna use the same argument when y'all bring up Pippen.
I mean, that doesn't take away from what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying that AD
You're
was
saying
better
that AD was the best player, but he was not the best player on the team. He clearly wasn't.
Objectively speaking, he was on both ends.
All right, if you want to, I don't know what that's supposed to be.
So okay, if Mike had an entire regular season, right, and a third of the playoffs, where Pippen led in every category other than assists and advanced metrics. I would say, would you still say no? Jordan was the better player that year.
I mean, Pippen led in the 6 finals run in the playoffs. He led in 4 of the 5 top major categories. And I would definitely say Michael Jordan was the best player on that team in the league.
Okay, so if we pull up their averages, I'm not talking about like a 6-year run. I'm talking about
I'm talking about when they won the finals.
regular season.
When they won those finals, those 6 years in the postseason, Pippen led in 4 of the 5 major statistical categories, and I would still say Michael Jordan was the best player on the team. I've always said that. I do not have Pippen in my top 20.
And see, and there's the difference there too. What's the points difference between LeBron and KD versus Michael and
You
Pippen?
mean AD? Yeah, AD. Yeah, there's a big point difference in Jordan,
Like what,
but
2,200 points?
What are you talking about
but
averages?
with like
sure.
with like LeBron, I think they average the same amount in the playoffs.
Yeah. And if we're talking about
what I'm
the
saying,
entire playoff run
and that's
for
why
their whole
Michael
career.
was better than Pippen. Yeah, Pippen led in those, and it was close, like LeBron to AD. But the points difference is what separates it.
Yeah, it was super close. Like, especially if we're just going by the totals for those playoff runs. And I mean, if we're doing the entire playoff run where they were together, Mike led in most of those categories cumulatively. But yeah, if we're talking just the 6 finals runs, then I believe Pippen has a slight edge in like block, steals, or whatever, rebounds. But I'm just saying,
But
like, it's not really knocking LeBron. I'm just saying that for a slight slice of his career,
season out of 20, someone
one
else did
season,
slightly better.
someone was the alpha guy on that team. Not saying this, he didn't win in Finals MVP because he did. He played better than AD in the finals. Facts.
I mean, the playoffs, LeBron played better than AD.
I mean, AD led in scoring.
They averaged the same amount in the playoffs. LeBron
Huh?
averaged more boards in the playoffs. He averaged more assists in the playoffs. He averaged more steals in the playoffs.
I mean, okay. I mean, you can still say that AD was the better player.
How's he
the better defensive player for sure?
Like you're saying that AD was better because he was better in the playoffs as well, which is not true.
No, I said my original thing was in 2020, specifically the regular season, he was the GOAT. He was the alpha guy.
He was not the alpha guy. That's what we're saying.
I was saying
LeBron was clearly the alpha on the team. He was
saying
the man with the ball.
If you watch the games, LeBron didn't shoot much in the first half. He just kept dishing. AD got a lot of his points and stuff and statistics in the first half, and then LeBron would take over the second half of the game.
I mean, yeah, it's just like Krebs said. Everyone was saying that LeBron should have won MVP. He was clearly the best, the alpha on the team. He was clearly the alpha on the team.
Yeah, man. That I mean, I'll. That's we disagree. Agree to disagree on that point, but
we all know they played amazing together.
The box score and watching the game comes in.
That's why everybody's upset.
I watched a ton of Laker games that year.
How they played in 2020, they couldn't duplicate it for the last 4 seasons. That's why everybody's really upset.
Mainly because AD has been injured.
But everybody knew he was injury prone before he became. He didn't play He didn't play not one time 80 games in New Orleans. No one was expecting him. Y'all knew he was injury prone.
Well, I guess they thought that he was going to change his routine and be healthy when he got with LeBron, but it's once you have
the trade was still worth it because they still got a championship out of it. So any trade that gives you a championship was worth it.
Yeah, I think it was a success. The AD trade. I mean, they traded players that's nowhere near Anthony Davis.
We saw flashes of AD this playoffs too. Like when he was healthy, that's like the biggest if in NBA history now, or at least like the past 3 years. Like when he's healthy, he's that dude, or he can be that dude on both ends. but it's just like you hold your breath every time like he has the ball almost, because what's he gonna do? Is he gonna come down from that 2-foot layup wrong and whatever?
He
But I
blinked too
think,
hard. He gonna go out for 20 games.
yeah, I think this is,
He,
like, to give the Lakers credit. I think they have a solid roster right now the way it's shaping up. If they're all healthy, I think they can do some damage. But again, it's just more so with them than any other team. I think it's just a question of if they're healthy.
like I've been said, I think the Lakers could have won a title this year if it wasn't for Jamal Murray. So I don't think they have to improve much. They have most of the team
Yeah.
back. I think they're good. It just depends on if they could get to the playoffs healthy. You all saw this year they didn't they didn't get healthy to the last 4-5 games of the season, and they look how far they made it. So
Yeah, I think that Rui's in a. Do you think Rui will start? He probably will, huh?
I don't know what they're doing with that. I think he should have in the playoffs for sure, especially versus Denver. I don't know why they wanted to tire Anthony Davis out guarding Jokic when they didn't have to, but
Yeah.
like I said, like those close games, it could have worked, but man, they got close, and I don't think they should have changed anything up this season. There's nobody you could bring in to going to help you actually beat Denver. They just have to play defense better, and specifically on Jamal Murray.
Yeah, Murray was unbelievable.
I don't think they could do much with Jokic. Jokic is not just going to destroy you. He's going to get his 27, 10, and 10, but that's containable for the Lakers. Like that's fine if he does that. That's
You
perfectly
know what's weird
fine.
about?
But
I agree. You know what's weird about Jokic though too? It's like, I don't know if this is a weird take, but like you feel like all of his stats. He doesn't just like, you don't just look up and be like, that guy had a triple double, whatever. You feel like, oh god, that pass was like a backbreaking pass, like it stopped a run, like, oh, he just got that critical board, and like his his scoring
It's like
output is,
watching him in slow motion. Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's like everyone pauses
yeah,
on
it's like
defense.
slow
That's
mo.
what it's like. Everyone just
yeah.
stops, and there's somebody with the pass wide open, and they make their
Oh yeah.
shots.
Yeah, that's the key word. The phrase, they make their shots. That's what they did. It was crazy.
Yeah, and when they're not making their shots, one of their stars is just gonna not miss shots. So they had a perfect run, and let's see if they could replicate that because throughout the season they wasn't. I think the Lakers beat them like 3-1 in the regular season, so it wasn't like they was very dominant throughout. Everybody had, I think they won 52, was the best in the West, but it wasn't like they was just what they did in the playoffs, like unstoppable,
When
like
LeBron,
the Warriors was.
Yeah.
when LeBron would guard Jokic, man, he would contain him.
Let's not get crazy here. Well,
They go look at those 4 games they played in the regular season and watch when LeBron James guarded Jokic, man. Just go back and watch them.
he barely guarded Jokic though. Let's look for any like
Uh,
reasonable stretch of
well,
time.
well,
I
he
didn't
he
say, I
does
didn't say
he
guard him
switched
for the
on him
whole
like
game.
three.
That's not what I'm saying. When he was on him,
Yeah, when he switched on him, he made sure Jokic did not score. That's basically what it. But those are like 2 or 3 times a game. He will make sure Jokic don't score. But who could do that for a whole game?
no.
But
Who
if it's
indeed?
like
Maybe Shaq. I doubt it. Okay.
Hakeem.
Yeah.
yeah,
Prime Akeem.
but
Give me
Jokic is
Prime
a
Akeem
big guy.
over
He's a
any
big guy.
player ever. I said it.
Who said Hakeem?
I don't know, man. It's like
Defensively?
defensively, sure, but also just two-way perspective. It's tough.
Yeah,
Buffalo plays
King
good
John
balls,
said
man.
Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard did a great job on him in the playoffs prior in 2020.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I don't know why they don't sign him back just to when they need him because they could have
He got
used
some
him
off the
versus
court
Denver.
issues going on right now. I don't think
He
anybody want to
always
be a
gonna have
part of
off
it.
the court issues, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about last season. last season. I don't know what's up with him now. I don't know the weird stuff he's doing now, but
Yeah, you don't want to know.
but last year when they needed a big man just to help Anthony Davis out, I don't know why he had to go to China and play. They could have just they. I don't know. Darvin Ham could at least put in Tristan Thompson earlier to help guard Jokic because all they need is a big body on him.
Yeah.
And they couldn't foul him because he can shoot his free throws. So you just needed someone to slow him down and just take energy out of him, make him work for everything.
Throw bodies at him. That's how they were beating Shaq.
Yeah. I think they could have helped him. I mean, held him until at least 24-9 if they had a big body on him. You're not stopping them, but you could slow them down some and try to disrupt the offense.
Your best bet against Jokic is like you need someone who's going to keep him out of the paint and make him be almost solely a distributor.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to go in the paint. That's the problem. So I don't think that's they put Rui on him, and he's not gonna go in the paint and try to score. That's just not the type of player he is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he can burn you any which way.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't think Denver is like the clear-cut favorite. I think they're probably the favorite, but they're not the clear-cut favorite. I think they could be beaten if they went up against the right defensive team.
I mean, unless they have a season, line up like last year, I don't see them going back to the finals.
And they don't have the same team this year. That's the thing.
They don't have the same team, and everybody on the West loaded up.
Some of their key people, like it's really going to depend on how well Jamal Murray can play in those close games, because we know what Jokic is going to do. If Jamal Murray turn into Michael Jordan again, it's different. They could win another title if he turned into Jordan again.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they got rid of who? Was it Bruce Brown or?
Yeah, he on the Pacers.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, that's tough. But
you heard what that fool said? He said the Timberwolves was the hardest team they played in the playoffs.
You guys heard what Cat said, right? That crazy shit that he said.
He said our toughest opponent was the Timberwolves.
Where he was like, what we did was better than what the Nuggets did.
All right, talking about what Cat said.
Yeah. Oh my God. And he's serious.
He's probably serious. That's the problem. All right, y'all. It's about to be 10:30, so we're going to go ahead and get up off of here. You guys got any last words before we get off?
Jerry West is the GOAT.
That's right. What you forget? The logo, baby.
All right. It was good having you guys on. It was good not arguing with Craig the whole time like we always do, but
he was in the chat for a minute, man. Or Johnny was, I should say.
Yeah, Johnny was. All right, you guys. See you guys next week where we gonna give our top 50 players of all time. We're gonna use a formula that we're using to go through all the stats. So we haven't looked at everything yet, but I think it's gonna be a little bit interesting. You guys get to talk about our criteria and if it's even valid. But all right, then. See you guys next week.
All right, man.